you should treat every employee is paid like a salesperson. You can give them a base, but that base works like a draw, and the percentage of what it takes to fulfill on that work gets paid to pay off that draw, and then infinitely above that if you exceed that base. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Welcome back to the Better Than Rich Show. I'm your host today, Mike Abramowitz, and I am here with James Kwon. James, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
James, here's the deal. I didn't even want to prep you on this because I want to hear the raw, authentic truth. Bro, you were like number 5 employee at CVS.com, you said. Mm-hmm. You had launched 5 companies, one of which have sold for nearly 9 figures. What is life like after selling a company for almost 9 figures?
It's a lot like it was before, except that we got to go to the Olympics we brought our whole family and got to travel Paris and hang out, and that was great. There's a couple more zeros, in the accounts, but I feel like for the most part things are the same. Like day-to-day life feels the same with more ammunition. We probably bought 5 years or got an accelerant of 5 years on some of the big dreams that we have. So we're looking more actively at acquisitions, looking at scale and grow some products that we have, trying to guess more because we've got guess more on podcasts like this, because I think this platform, this program that we have in Slices is magical, and I want to get it out in front of as many people as possible.
Dude, I had a feeling, that's why I didn't want to prep you. I had a feeling that was going to be the response, because a lot of times we talk to people and they're in this pursuit of the carrot. And then once they get the carrot, life is still going to continue to evolve, right? It's like life doesn't just stop once I get the thing that I was chasing after, or like the dog chasing the bone. It's like life still continues to move forward. And I love that you captured that, because I had a feeling that was going to be the response, because it is. Yeah.
There's no camping out on the beach quite yet. We did take a little bit of time off, a little bit of breather, but there's work to be done. There's so much work that we got to keep going.
Yeah. We're streaming season 4 right now. We're mainly supporting the guys in the trades, people like my dad, but 30 years ago. My dad is 84. He runs a plumbing company up in New Jersey. He still works 6 days a week, still grinds, still answers every phone call himself. But him 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I was a kid, that's the guy that we're helping. They're running maybe a 7-figure company, and we want to help them get out of the van and focusing on their zone of genius and maybe building a business that could sell one day, or they could pass down to their kids or to a worker or something like that. So I want to dig in and pick your brain on a lot of the tactical. We could stay at the high level and talk about how beautiful life is, having all these exits and all the cool shit that you're into. But frankly, I want to give our guests, I try to pull out the paid stuff during these 3 episodes. So why don't we talk a little bit about the Slices method? Give us a context of the origin of Slices. What does Slices stand for? Because I know that is specifically designed to help these home service guys get out of the weeds and build predictability in their business. So why don't we start there, set the framework, and just riff in whatever direction feels good for you.
Sounds good. Oh, I'm back. All right. Yeah, sounds good. I'm super excited to dive into it. Slices came out of a necessity for us because at some point as the business was growing, I was making less and less money as a business owner. And this might be very familiar to a lot of the listeners, yourself, Mike, maybe. And one of the things that blew me away was this idea of profit first. Michael Abramowitz wrote a book talking about you should slice out or carve out a portion of the profits at the very beginning as you get those dollars in. He goes so far as to say create a separate account and then put it in that account, squirrel it away and don't touch it, and then have all these different accounts. I think administratively a little bit of a burden to do that, but I think the pain of doing that, he mentions in the book, it's helpful. Part 2, another reason why we created Slices was that I was never able to pay my best employees what they were worth. And so we wanted to create a system that incentivizes them to win. And if they do better and bring in dollars and do more, then they get paid more. That's the way it should be. It's the way we get paid as business owners, but very rarely do we pay our employees that way. And then lastly, as we were developing this model, realizing, wow, this is a performance-based model. And pay for performance has always been on my mind as a powerful way to incentivize people to do the right stuff. And yeah, I heard this story about a turnaround guy at GM. He's a big shot executive. Anytime he would go into a different department at GM to turn around that department, pay for performance was like the number one thing he would implement and to utilize as the driver to really establish that. So Slices is essentially a really simple system to create pay for performance, really clear compensation for your employees, help you keep more in your pocket. And yeah, every magical thing that we can fit into
Is it an
Slices.
acronym? Does it stand for something or no?
No, no,
Okay,
it
it's just more of
is,
a method.
yeah, just the idea of you have a whole pie or you have a whole pizza and you only have so many slices that you can carve out of it. And too often as business owners, we're like, yeah, we'll put money towards that. Or we just got this big job. We're gonna buy this new truck, or we're gonna buy this other thing. And lo and behold, you only have a certain amount of dollars. You don't have more than 100% to give, trying to stay objective about where those dollars should go.
Okay, I'm gonna get right into the weeds with
Let's do
this.
it. Yeah.
Okay. So, what I'm under the impression of, if I want to do a paper performance, then I need to charge a certain way to
Hmm.
my clients in order to offset the idea of paying for performance. Because if I want to profit, I got to make sure I'm charging in alignment with the paper for performance. So, if I'm running a plumbing company or an HVAC company or a landscape lighting company, or if I'm a paver, a roofer, garage door, right? Some of these guys, when they're setting their prices, they're basing it off of what is my competitor pricing at? What do I feel like? What does my gut say? I want to just land this job. So if I'm quoting these ways and then I give a paper for performance to my guys,
Yeah.
talk to me about the actual tactical ways to price the jobs in alignment with a pay for performance. So it
Sure.
doesn't just seem like a cool concept. It's
Mhm.
how I can actually structure it inside of my business.
Yeah, two or three things I would say to that. One is first, let's agree that pricing it by gut is probably not the right way, not the best way to price it. And number two, I think interestingly, I get this every now and then, and I think you're thinking along these lines, Mike, that pay for performance is this added bonus, right? It's, oh yeah, you get your base, but then you have these points that get added up on top of it if you do a job a certain sort of way. I would combat that a little bit and say you should treat every employee is paid like a salesperson. You can give them a base, but that base works like a draw, and the percentage of what it takes to fulfill on that work gets paid to pay off that draw, and then infinitely above that if you exceed that base. So what I mean is you should set up your pricing. Let's say you have $1,000 job, to make the math easy. You have $1,000 job and 30% of that goes towards the direct labor to get that job done, and 10% goes towards managing that account, right? For example, if you do both, you'll get 40%. And if I'm paying you, that's $400. If I'm paying you $400 a month, you've hit your base. And if you do two jobs, I'm paying you a double. You made double your salary. Does that make sense?
I want to say yes, it makes sense just to agree with you, but I'd like
Okay.
to get some specific examples. So let's say instead of $1,000 job, let's do a $10,000 landscape lighting job to
Okay.
honor my friend Scott, who is here, who runs a landscape lighting company.
Sweet.
So
Great.
let's just go with that. It's a $10,000 landscape lighting job,
Yep.
and I have my crew that I
Mhm.
assign to the job that's going to go do the work. I have my technicians, there's labor workers. So each person, there's the laborers. Then I
Mhm.
also have my office manager who
Sure.
she has an hourly job. And then I got my labor guys that they have usually an hourly. That's how they're paid hourly. Structure it in that specific example for this $10,000 job. How are
Yep.
each person pay per performance in this example potentially?
Yeah, let me give you the breakdown of the slices that we use, and then I can backwards fill
And let's
this.
assume
Yeah.
50% margin, profit margin
Sure.
growth, if that helps. Gross margin,
Yeah.
50%. Yeah.
I would imagine, let's say it's 20% of that is product and then 30% of that is labor. Is that fair?
Yeah. Let's
Split.
go with that.
Okay. So in a
Let's go with that
10,000,
slice. No, I'm just kidding.
that's right. Yeah. So those are the slices. So this is interesting because there's product and services. Sometimes it's just services. Rarely it's only product. There's always some sort of touch that happens. But the way we break down every project is marketing. Where did the lead come from? Sales, who closed the deal? And then we do account management and strategy. So we're a strategic consulting firm around marketing and growth. And so as a digital agency, there's some level of strategy. We believe that this is different strategy and account management. You could do the same. You can have a landscape lighting design team work on a project a little bit, but they can work on more projects than somebody installing all the things, right? For example. So you have a strategist, you have an account manager. We have something called fulfillment, which is similarly, we have producers who make the stuff, design the websites, design the branding, produce the social media posts. And then there's operations bucket or operation slice, and then a profit slice. All of those have a specific percentage tied to them. And then every project that comes in, every dollar that comes in, we allocate it towards the right places. So most of the projects that come in, most of the dollars, let's say it's a $10,000 job, some of that is going directly to that $10,000 job, rewarding the people who did it, like selling it. There's a percentage that gets tied to that. We give out that percentage. Then there's a percentage that goes towards fulfilling it, getting that work done. And in this case, it would be, let's call it 20% for the product, 30% for installation. Maybe there's a 10% like management design fee. Whoever's reaching out to the client, creating a great service, right? There's that effort that needs to happen. A lot of times for small businesses, the owner winds up doing that and they don't realize they need to pay themselves that, because they outgrow that role, or the growth outpaces their ability to do that all the time. They hire somebody and then all of a sudden their profit's gone, and they're like, what just happened? You didn't pay yourself, or you didn't think about paying yourself for that job that you had. Same thing with sales. And then the ops person, the back office person, I would say that their salary comes from this kind of a bucket pool where 10% of every project, or a certain percentage of every project, goes towards that pool. And once you get big enough, you can't have, this is the reality. When I started, I think maybe a lot of small business owners think, oh, I need an executive assistant, and I need a finance person, I need an HR person, I need this whole back office team. You're not big enough. You can't have all of those people. You can have a part-time person who maybe can do a lot of that. So there's some money that goes towards the pool, and the profit lives as a slice so that you can borrow from it. You're hurting yourself when you do that, but you can fuel growth from it. You can put it in your pocket. You can make the decisions as a business owner.
I would love a specific example for an
Sure.
actual company, but I would also love on this hypothetical example, if they collect a deposit, getting into the nitty gritty here,
Mm.
are we distributing those dollars as we're getting them, or are we waiting until the job is completed and then distributing those dollars? Does that matter at all?
Yeah, great question. We would recommend one of two ways. If you have a model where you're utilizing contractors more, you can pay that person right away and say, "Yep, we got the dollars. We pay our contractors as soon as we get paid from the clients." If you're on a salary model, you have a big enough team where you have regular people. I think it does make sense to give them some continuity and some base as a security, right? But that we reconcile that every quarter. So we'll look at the slices you've earned in a given quarter and what did we pay you. So you have a bar that you need to reach. And if you haven't hit your slices, then we know you've underperformed or you're underutilized as an employee. And so if that happens too many quarters in a row, we have some hard discussions about, do we need you 5 days a week? What other things can you do? How can you earn these other slices? And guess what? If you didn't have slices, you're having those hard conversations anyway. They're just a lot harder to see, right? You don't necessarily know when somebody's underutilized or not, but now you do it. You measure it with, I think, the one metric that is even across the board, which is dollars.
So I'm going to stay with this example just because I'm trying to click. It's trying to click. I'm
Yeah,
sometimes real slow. So listener,
I
if it's
love it.
already clicked for you, dude, listener, I'm sorry. All right. I'm sorry. Just bear with me. So if in this example, I do 10 of
Yep.
these types of jobs a month, that would be
Sure.
$100,000.
Yep.
That means I'm going to do about 1.2 million for the year, which is a decent amount of our listeners are in that like low seven-figure range, let's
Sure.
say.
Yep.
So if I got 100,000 right off the bat, with my 50% gross margin, right? So 50% is going to material labor, but so 30% towards labor is a slice that I'm paying my fulfillment team. Is that a way to look at this?
Sure. Yeah. I would carve out your back office and administrative team, people who are not directly related to jobs. I would carve them out as a different category, like an admin
So
bucket.
that's not labor then. So the labor is just the fulfillment.
Correct. For us. Yeah. That's how
So
we would
30%, so that means 30 grand is my line item
per month. Yeah.
per month for those 10 jobs as an example.
Sure.
that
Yep.
I'm just paying to my crew to fulfill on the job.
Yes.
20% is going to
Materials.
the materials. So that other 50% slice,
What is it?
what am I paying? We said 10, maybe 10% going to marketing.
Sales and marketing, let's call it 10 to 15%. Ops, it's 10 to 15%. I would, I think there's some level of account management. People who are related to the job, they might not be on site doing all the installation, but they are hand holding clients through it. They're walking them through which products to get. It might not be the same person. And that person I would say is a production person, but they're not in the on site ground level. Does that make
So
sense?
so 30 grand went to our technicians. If we're
Hmm.
going 10, let's say 15K, which is that's sales and marketing, which is that 15%. Sales and marketing is 15 grand,
Yep.
which is 15%. And then if we have like the operations, which would be like the crew leaders and the office manager, is that
I would just say office manager. I
just
would say,
office manager? So that's
yep.
10%,
Yeah.
10 grand.
Office manager, rent, maintenance on your trucks,
Okay.
etc. Everything needs to come from this bucket. Yeah.
Okay. So that's 10 grand for the month for the
For the
office
month.
manager, the maintenance, the rent.
Yep.
We got the 20 grand that already went to the materials.
Yep.
Okay. So that's 50. That's another set. So we got 25K left over.
Great.
After we pay the office manager, the rent, the maintenance, we got the sales and marketing, we got the
Hmm.
technicians, we got the materials.
Yep.
So where's the 25K slice? How much is the business keeping?
25. 25.
Just keep the business keeps the 25K?
Yeah. So you can
Or does the
sub.
owner get a distribution of that? Does
Yeah.
or is
Oh, great. We are getting into the thick of it,
I'm
Mike. I like it.
trying,
I
dude.
love
I'm
it.
trying to make
Yeah.
sense of it.
So the profit, there's lots of different ways, philosophies on how you do it. I think small businesses that will maintain to be or will continue to be small businesses. Don't think about other things that you can invest using your profit. One is invest back into the business. So some portion of that can go back into funding better trucks, better equipment, better stuff that are at some level assets to the business. Maybe it's going into acquisitions of other companies. Some of it obviously is a business owners and executive level team distribution. So there's maybe an owner's distribution, there's maybe a team leadership distribution. I would recommend maybe even a bonus distribution for the entire team. So the more profitable we are as a company, the more bonuses go back. I always recommend carving out some portion for giving also. I think it makes every company really connected to community. This is being a blessing as a business is really useful and helpful.
Here's my slices. All
Yeah, you
right.
did it. Yeah, I'm writing it down in the chat too.
So I'm just trying to really conceptualize. So anybody that's watching on YouTube, if you're listening to Spotify, I'm holding a little sticky note up of the number breakdown. So essentially, if in this model there's $25,000 left over after I paid my rent, my team, the sales, marketing, tech, materials, all that, there's 25K left over off of $100,000 for the month, and that 25 grand is going to go towards future bonuses, paying the owner, the future of the company, giving back to the community, whatever it might be, where most of the time, if I'm not mistaken, an owner, if there's $25,000 left over, they're like, I got 25 grand in the bank.
Do you?
And they might not be thinking about, oh, there's
Taxes.
another one, taxes. You know,
Right.
we
Well,
forgot about
and
this.
in that model, when you subslice, when you create these even further increments of profit in particular, you're only getting taxed on the distributions you keep, right? Because some of it, if you give to bonuses, you're not taxed on that. You're not taxed on the giving that you do. You're taxed on the dollars that you keep to invest back in the business and the dollars you keep in your pocket. And of course, you have to keep that into consideration when you subslice it.
Okay, I'm gonna stay in the weeds for a moment. Then I
All right,
really
let's
want
do
a
it.
real example. When I'm interviewing or hiring for these roles, or if I'm gonna implement some of the slices concept into my current staff, what is the conversation that allows them to be excited and eager to bring slices into the model versus resistant and change is and
Woo.
something different is scary? What's that conversation sound like?
Yeah, Mike, you're good at this. This is probably one of the hardest things about implementing slices. It was for us. Many of the teams and many companies that I coach going through this, the number one pushback that you'll hear from your team is, "Am I making less? Oh, if I don't hit my slices, what happens?" The same thing if you weren't productive, right? It's like we already have, you probably already have some process for that. If you don't do your job and you're not getting your work done, you probably we're having the same conversations. So we want to, I would recommend every company who starts Slices to say something like, you will not make less money in the first 6 months. We're going to roll this out as a pilot. We're going to show you how it works. We're only designing this so you can win. That's it. And what we usually find is that there's ABC level employees. Let's call it Alex, Ben, and Charlie. Your A level employees, the fire is lit, the competition, the game is on, and they're like, I can make more. Give me more. I'm gonna do it. What do I need to do to figure out a way to get it done? You'll wind up paying them more, which is good because those are the people you may lose if you don't pay them enough. They're gonna get recruited by somebody else. You have your B level the Bens who there's no change. They know what the bar is. They hit the bar and they don't do more, but they don't do less. And then of course you have the Charlies at the end who you find out, hey, surprise, they were actually underutilized, or you're paying them 50K, 100K, whatever it is. You're paying them a certain amount of dollars and they're not hitting their return. And so they were being underutilized this whole time. But now it's just obvious. It's clear.
So, with that being said, we got a 6 month ramp on ramp. You're not going to make any less. That's for current team.
Yep.
And we're still going to pay them what, weekly, biweekly, whatever the pay
Same.
cadence is,
Yep.
based on the revenue that's coming in that they're getting their slice of. If I'm understanding correctly, what we just came up with is suggested averages. Is there a methodology to come up with the specifics? Because like we gave a range like 10 to 15% for this. And is there like a methodology of coming up with the specifics? And then I think that might be my last curiosity. If it's not, I'll ask my next one. But then I really want a real example from you of an actual company that you're working with.
Yeah. There's two ways to start. One is these industry averages do exist across every industry. And so you can go dive deeper into specifically landscape lighting, or you can go into professional services, dot, 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 agency, dot, 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 marketing, digital marketing agency. You can go all the way down and see what the industry averages are. There are some great tools out there. I think SageWorks is one that gives you all of those. Today, ChatGPT can pull a lot of this research for you and just pull it dynamically. But of course, if you've been in business, you have these numbers. This is a aha moment at the very beginning of Slices when we go through the program is surprise, you have Slices. They exist today. When we start to carve this out, and you'll go, oh, James, this is great. I spent $0 on marketing. It's not okay. That's not true. You probably, who does all your sales? Who makes the calls? How do you get your leads? You probably you're undervaluing your network relationships. You're undervaluing the time spent from the owner having to do some of this work, right? So these numbers do exist, and then you can start to compare it across the board with industry results and say, oh wow, yeah, we're underspending on sales and marketing. We're underspending on ops, and then put a dream in place. Like if we want to be the company that I'm dreaming of being in 3 years, we have this sort of administrative staff, or we've got this sort of materials, machinery, et cetera. We got these sort of processes. We need to be 3 times bigger. We didn't know that before, but with Slices, it helps you think at that level.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Give me any example you have with someone in the trades that any listener could relate to of
Yeah.
how this helped their business go from where they were to where
Yeah.
they are to where they headed.
I'll give you two quick stories and then we can
Great.
dive deeper on each one if you'd
Tell
like.
me.
Yeah. One is with a landscaper. Actually, we'll stay in that world. This is a landscape. We call it landscape builder. He's not the architect, but he produces incredible work. They have done many projects that have been in our architectural digest. They don't do any projects for homes less than $5 million. So they're a massive architectural building company or a landscape building company. Beautiful pools, decks, experiences out there. Anyway, he has a huge crew, more than 50 guys, lots of kind of contract part-time crew also. And he was getting really tired of paying people hourly. They had to lay thousands of yards of mulch and sod and all this stuff. And so he changed the game. Instead of paying them hourly, which again is a broken model, incentivizing these guys to take longer, because the longer you take, the more you get paid. And he kind of that switch flipped in his mind and said, you know what? I'm going to stop paying hourly. I have all this mulch. I'm not charging that way. I'm charging by the yard that I put down. And so he carved out his slices, his percentages. He implemented the system and said, I'm going to pay you X amount. I think it was maybe it's $1 per yard or something like that, or $3 per yard. I forget what, or I don't know what exact number it was. And then lo and behold, the crew organized themselves into A, B's, and C's, right? There were a handful of guys that were like up for the challenge, ready to go. They would lay 50% more sod and or 50% more mulch than before. You got your guys that just hit the bar and said, okay, if that's what I need to hit, that's what I'm going to hit. And then had the guys who did less and started to complain. And he, at the beginning, didn't do it with you're not going to get paid less quote. He was like, this is how I'm going to pay. So some guys got frustrated, but it was the guys who weren't that great anyway. They were slow and underperforming. It worked super well for them, this pay for performance model.
Okay, I'll ask you a question about that one before we go to the next
Sure.
example. How does this blue collar guy track that? Because I am already hearing in my mind, like we have this custom like remodeler on that we work with. He's using our Better Than Rich services to help him clean up his operations and stuff. And I can almost hear him in my mind because he's like, dude, how the fuck am I going to track that? He's like texting the guys the night before and he's
Yeah.
sending his subcontractors out and the crew and this and that. He's just writes him checks on Fridays and he's just like scrambling, running like a $2 million remodel custom build. And obviously he hired us to help him clean a lot of that stuff up.
Yeah.
But I am curious on what would your response be on how is this tracked?
Yeah, go one step up. I would be hard pressed if they charged the client hourly for that for the person's time. They probably are doing estimates, right? They're saying, hey, this is probably going to take a week.
But how more the question is like, how are they tracking how many? If I'm going to pay the guy $1 a yard as an example,
Yeah,
they're not. And if I got five guys on the job,
yeah.
how do you know how many yards the A guy did versus the C guy did?
Oh, these guys will keep track on their
So
own.
that's it. So it's a little, so it's honor system of tracking.
You have a manager on site, so you know that you can give them like their amount. Okay, everybody's going to do this. If you do more, let me know. Let us know. I'll track and measure it.
Okay.
Yeah. So you mean like on the field? How did they do it?
Like having the field track it and then
Yeah.
report that back to home base to
Hmm.
the person who's doing the payroll. I feel like again, it's a feeling of a nuance or like some sort of wrinkle that could create friction or uncertainty or,
Sure.
and obviously this is again, so in the weeds, so tactical,
Yeah.
but I would love for the listeners to actually implement this, right? And what I try to do on the podcast is not just have cool ideas, but have them leave here and say, all right, I'll take the next step. I'll book that call with James. I'll
Yeah.
get that spreadsheet from him.
It's a good question. I would say probably on the field manager level. So you probably have somebody on site who's managing those guys who is making sure that they're doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. I'm trying to think how would we do it if you were to
And that manager's getting a slice.
yeah, in fact,
So
they would have a slice for the management, a slice for if they're doing production, also if they're like actually doing some of the work, then they would have a slice for that. The way we would do it is by project. And so you think about laying sod, that is this project amount. We estimate it's going to be this many yards or however we segment it, this many rolls, this many whatever. And then you do it by the project. So you say, this is 10K. This is how we're going to split up the work. Instead of doing it by hour, this is your expectation. Like we're going to do 10 on this half day. And then everybody's like working on that half day. And then you did more or less. You can tell a little bit more easily at the end of that day. So it's a good question on the how to track regularly. We would do it. We still track hours and time for the sake of seeing how projects run. And some companies are, this is federal law. You still have to track time if you're close to a minimum wage anyway, just so that you're not underpaying. But again, when you track it and see what their utilization is, then you can say that person's, we're paying them, we're overpaying them, even though it's a minimum. That makes sense. So there's some way that that's getting tracked now. How someone, like the quality of how somebody's working, I would just say that you're just kind of shifting the mentality of how you review the quality metrics.
it's great, dude. I love it. That's why I wanted to book you on the show because I think it's a really niche, unique topic. And I think it's relevant to the marketplace to just reconsider your compensation structure. That's why I want to just try to pull out of you any of
Yeah.
the second, third questions, because I'm literally meeting with this guy I'm talking about tomorrow and his team for 3 hours, and I already started building out the flow chart and the software that they're using. We have Go High Level for the marketing on the front end, and then we're going to
Mhm.
use Leap on the back end for their. That's the one they landed on. I know you're big on HubSpot. We have another guy, Nick, who's in the landscape lighting space, who's using HubSpot, and he loves it. Runs a lighthouse out in Denver, and it's great. It's great. However, we do see like this service management piece often gets overlooked, and sometimes the technology gets underutilized or it gets sloppy or it's hard to manage as the team grows, as the jobs get a little bit more complicated. The customer wants to add more shit on, and then we have to set another invoice in. And now it's like, I got to communicate that to the crew, or something is delayed, or there's another contractor. My job is dependent on the materials getting delivered by this person or another vendor. There's just so much stuff that happens oftentimes from the start of the job to the completion of the job, often creates a lot of chaos. And I'm almost like, the concern that these guys sometimes have is, I got to keep my guys busy. I got to keep paying my guys. And if the jobs are getting delayed, I got to pay them anyway. Or like, they
Ah,
put so much pressure, the owners put a lot of pressure on themselves to
sure.
continue keeping things humming. Again, I'm trying to understand this guy as much as possible, and you already do. So speak to whatever means makes sense of anything I just said, if anything makes sense at all. I don't know. I'm just ranting at this point.
No, I think this is good. This supersedes a little bit of the slices challenge. There's always a challenge for business owners around I need to sell enough, I need to hire enough. There's a whole separate philosophy of this wave of contractor bench that needs to grow for every industry. Ours, in addition to technical, blue collar, hardworking individuals out there on the field, day workers, there's all of these kind of models that I think are really important to explore because the old model of selling a lot, hiring more, selling a lot, like that, you're going to get into the cycle of, oh my gosh, I can't sell fast enough. We need to do layoffs. It's going to happen, right? That cycle is going to happen. So what I found in slices is that one, knowing who is underutilized across the board, almost instant. We can see it live, which is very different than it was back in the day. In fact, one of the reasons why we implemented slices was because we had this one metric that we would track all the time. It was billable dollars for us as an agency. This is really important for us. We'd have this number. I think at the time it was like 40K or something like that, per week. We needed to track 40K per week. And that number was magical because we needed to bill that many hours. We needed to invoice that many hours. We need to sell that much dollars, that many dollars. Like everything worked on that. And if we hit that number in a week, we would buy the team lunch and celebrate and be like, yes, this is great. Come to find out, a quarter later, when we were doing our books, we realized that we were paying lunch for many multiple weeks that we hit billable, but we actually weren't collecting those dollars. This was a false metric because we would bill towards a project and that project was triple over budget. And we didn't see that. But in slices, it's not just billable dollars, it's actual dollars. Did we get paid that? Yes, that's paying you. And so because it's that granular of the dollars actually coming in, the employees are certainly mindful of it. They're like, holy crap, I don't have enough slices in the upcoming months. So they start thinking about that. Like good employees, the A players, the Alexes, they're coming to you and saying, hey, I just saw I'm not going to hit slices next month. I saw that on my list. So what can I do? How can I pick up other slices? All of a sudden you have people thinking like sales guys. They can go out and say, hey, you can learn how to do this stuff. You can learn how to do these other, cross utilize them a little bit more. That makes them more valuable, right? That's natural. And it's created this, I don't know, is this a safe place to say it's like this anti millennial,
It's safe, bro.
chill,
Safe, but we've
chill,
talked about it all.
overly chill culture, like how much vacation can I get 9 months off for having a baby, like all this stuff. My with slices, I'm free to say, yeah, you can take as much time. It's truly unlimited PTO. You can take all the time you want, but you're not going to hit your slices. So once you stop hitting your slices in a certain way, we can drop you to a contractor, keep working with us. We'd love to. We'll give you the projects, do the projects. This is the expectation of getting them done. But we don't have enough revenue and projects, and you don't do them at the speed that we need. We gave it to somebody else. There's a very kind of American free market economy system that's being built within the company. And yeah, I think it makes this stuff easier.
What's the other example you were going to share before I cut you off and went on a
Cleaning
tangent?
company. Yeah, so a friend of mine has a commercial cleaning company, and you just constantly getting into fights with his shift managers and his shift workers about how many jobs they can take on in a given night because they work at nighttime after an office closes. They have two or three or four. Some of the best guys will do four locations because they could do an early office closes at 4:30, where the next office closes at 6, 7, and then there's super late shifts. And he would always complain about hey, we're working at 2 a.m. so we need to get paid more on certain sort of time, and there's always back and forth. Hey, I need you to take this other project. I already my plate's so full. I can't. I have so many projects already. And I asked him like, do you charge your clients hourly? And he's like, no, it's a set fee every month. They just pay the bill. So why don't you slice out what it should cost to get the work done, give them that as the incentive and say, hey, we're not paying you by the hour anymore. We're going to pay you by the job. And this is the fee. Like you can tell me whether you want it or not. And then if you don't want it, I'm just going to go to the next person. Lo and behold, you got your Alexes. He had mostly Alexes kind of rise up. They were incentivized to do them faster. And then they magically found the time to take on 3 clients instead of 2 or 4 clients instead of 3 because it was incentivized for that.
And you
And
obviously need to have quality control either way, whether you're
you
doing
have
it
to.
hourly or not. There has
Yeah,
to be quality metrics of was it good work? Did every bathroom get cleaned the right way?
exactly.
Standard
Yeah.
performance, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And
Which is tough, which I don't believe every one of these guys have in place. They don't have quality QC, quality control metrics or ways to know other than let me go walk the job site before I bring the customer on here. Internal review before client review.
yeah, separate sort of question, but separate sort of discussion. Happy to go down that route, but I would highly recommend outsourcing as much of those detail elements as possible to folks that aren't on your team. So give it back to the client. Hey, we're going to do a monthly review. Just let them know in the sales process. Part of our process of being doing a great job is you always have my number. You can call me, but we're going to automatically send you this note, 5 questions, answer these questions. It's just to let us know how we're doing. Right. And then that gives us some feedback, direct feedback on how the employees are doing. And it's part of the process.
So getting a feedback loop with your customer
Yeah.
is a part of the indoctrination of what it means, like what it means to work with us and use
Yeah.
us.
This is our communication side coming out, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to do with slices necessarily. But you could absolutely say, hey, we do this for our account managers and strategists. They get a bonus if the client stays over a year. So here's how our slices works. Here's how, like, I put it in the chat here. So 15% sales and marketing. We didn't put it in here, but let's say 5% is like oversight, management, etc. So let's say sales and marketing, you don't pay 15% every year you have that client, right? Maybe you pay half that in the second year. Where does that other 7.5% go? You can put it directly to the bottom line, or you can give a little piece of it to your managers or your team to say, if you do a great job and these clients come back and they continue to buy from us, we'll bump your pay. We'll give you another point, which is a big deal. Like you get another point on 10%.
Yeah.
That's a 10% increase on your salary, right?
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it also maximizes the lifetime value. We talk a lot about the LTV, the lifetime value,
Mm.
client maximization inside of our community. So,
I want an LTV CAC tattoo somewhere.
oh yeah,
Maybe
like a greater than.
yeah.
Is that what we're talking about? LTV
Or
is
like
greater than.
LTV dot colon customer acquisition cost. Like
Oh, yeah,
knowing
got
the
it.
ratio of the two. That's
Oh,
like
the
the
ratio. Okay, got it. I thought it was like greater than, because that's what my coach always says. Lifetime value is greater than customer acquisition cost,
yeah,
meaning it's more important.
yeah,
Right?
for sure.
So that was awesome. That was like, listener, that was a master class. So what I just pulled out of James and what he shared with you is a master class on how to install these slices into the business. Went definitely into the weeds, and I appreciate that. We still have some time for another direction, and
Yeah.
I'd like to Is there a direction that you have expertise in a lot of different places? AI is always a hot topic, and CRM with HubSpot and your expertise there. I feel like we can even jam on a little bit there, or something totally else that you're like, I'm passionate about this right now. I think your audience might want to know that. If you
Oh,
wanted to
sure.
go in a direction, what feels good for you?
Yeah. Oh, do we have a hard stop at two?
That's a good question. I could go a little bit over if you want
Okay.
to.
Yeah, I have a little bit of time. The last thing I'll say about
Yeah.
slices that we're just exploring now is ESOP. Most businesses can't. ESOPs are amazing. They're an incredible vehicle for exiting the company, rewarding your employees, employee stock ownership programs. Historically, you haven't been able to do an ESOP if you have less than $1 million of EBITDA a year. So it's about 2 million is like the safe spot because it takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to create an ESOP for the business or to turn your business into an ESOP. And then I don't know, it's $100,000 a year to keep it going regularly. I think slices can replace that. There is this, if you can implement slices well, it creates a profit margin. You can own a slice for yourself as the founder and then have an exit model that incentivizes employees. I'll just drop it at that as we're
Yeah.
not, we need more work to build that out, but it's exciting, especially for this world.
You mentioned it to me on our initial call. You said ESOP, and I did not know what that meant. And I
Yeah.
know you said it again, ESOP, employee stock
Stock
ownership
ownership plan.
plan.
Yeah.
So we have never had that topic on the show ever. Like
Uh,
I'm not an expert or familiar with it. I've come from 1099 world for my entire adult life. Many of these contractors, maybe they are familiar with ESOPs, maybe they're not. But the notes that I have, and correct me if anything I'm wrong here, selling company back to the employees, highly incentivized through taxes,
mhm.
tough to do for small businesses, but the method of slices allows C12 group, similar to Vistage. Why hourly does not work? Oh, that's different. Adjusting
I
how
was
they
like,
charge.
whoa, just veered off a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything in the beginning there is exactly right.
Okay. Yeah, that was different. A different set of notes. So everything in the beginning.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
ESOP is an amazing model. I would say it makes a lot more sense for the companies that listen to your podcast that are going to be in the at least $5 to $10 million range, maybe more. But companies smaller haven't even had the chance to think about it as a way for exit and a way for incentivizing employees. That's the last part. And I'll just mention that I do have a page. The Your page should be up soon. It is figmints.com/better than rich. It, you do need some materials for this. So we have some spreadsheets available for people to check out. And we have, there's a class, there's a 90-day program that goes into implementing slices for the
Can you
business.
jam on Figments? I went to the website, makes sense
Yeah.
of the new digital marketing landscape, and I know we spent the majority of this on slices, and frankly, I would love to hear a little bit about Figment
Yeah.
because I don't see slices on here. So I don't
Yeah.
know if those are two different things
Yeah.
or
We don't talk about it at Figments. We keep it to the digital marketing agency. Figments is a full service digital marketing firm, crafting really great stories to the exact right audience, building the world that that story lives in, branding, web, video, whatever it takes to tell it well. But it can't just look and sound good. We need to build a system to bring people to that story. So we build a digital marketing process, and we're an outsourced marketing department for many small businesses, medium-sized businesses, usually.
so an outsourced marketing department for small to medium sized businesses. Is
Hmm.
that right?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay. And when a lot of people hear marketing, they think social media, SEO, Google My Business, they hear direct mail. Is that kind of what you would like them to hear, or
That's,
is there a
yeah, that's great.
reframe that you would like to offer to them?
I think it goes back to LTV CAC. I'm agnostic to the way that we do it. For some clients, your competitors, the competitors that we're up against, they know digital in and out, and we can't beat them at digital because they've optimized search engine. And many of your clients probably, or a lot of people listening, they're in industries where it's very nuanced to do SEO. It's very nuanced to do ad spend. You're going to spend a fortune trying to compete in that market. We have to compete in an area that people are less active in, the blue ocean, right? Red oceans are bloody, and you're going to lose a lot of blood trying to
Hmm.
fight against these guys. For many of your small and mid-sized businesses, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Blue ocean strategy.
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
fight where your competitors aren't fighting. And that might be not just your a different industry, and not it might be a way you productize your offerings. It might be a way that you communicate about them. It might be a way that you certainly market towards those individuals. So we try to think strategically along those lines of, hey, how can we tell the best story to the best audience and be sticky, memorable, and get in
Mm,
front of them. So I think we're a little rare. We're more like we call ourselves a digital creative marketing firm because yes, highly technical, but really thoughtful creative strategy and doing it in a way that we can produce results.
that's awesome. Do you know Ryan Levesque or no?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So he was just on the show last week and he went on a little rant on how to create the origin story and the
Ooh,
differentiator. And there's like a clip on that. So listener, if you wanted to like really go into the weeds on some of that stuff, you could go back to Ryan Levesque's episode. He crushed that segment there. And James, I really love that. I'm looking at the website right now. I love what you are helping these businesses with as far as not just the marketing, but the web design, helping them with their video, the web
right.
development. So it's more optimizing the client journey and the user experience, which is
Sure.
something that is not talked about enough.
Yeah.
And I really love that's something that you're offering. So
Yeah, especially for the guys who are listening to your podcast in this field, they are not thinking enough about what we call rev ops today. So the opportunity for revenue in every stage of the process before you know them, how you engage with them initially, what does the sales process look like? Once they become a customer, it is not over. How do we engage with them on a relationship basis, give them a great experience? How do we follow up with them to ask them for a review and a referral? That how do we come back to them later when it's the cycles we're prepared to recycle into the next discussion and upsell and increase their lifetime value? That whole process, that's all communications and marketing. And
mm,
most people think of marketing as website or just the like this component here, this piece of that lead gen. But really, you should be thinking about your communication marketing from like all angles of it.
yeah, gosh, we just opened up something. I can't stop the curiosity. You don't have to answer it the full detail way,
Yeah.
but what is the main, like if you had to give your stump speech on if you wanted to improve conversion rate and optimize on your site, these would be the five or three or seven items to look at or optimize first or review or
All right.
audit.
Let me give you the super value for Scott and for any listener that's listening here. Number one, video is unbelievably powerful. SEO ranks better because of video. The story is just told in video better. Even if you're terrible in front of a camera, someone would 100%, it's four times more likely that they would click play and watch a 2 minute video than spend 60 seconds reading a website. So there's having video super, super powerful. Can't stress this enough. On that video, the content should be engaging towards a specific audience. So gone are the days when we can just have an overview video that says, "Hey, welcome to my landscape lighting company. Aren't we awesome?" No, you should say, "Hey, East Greenwich, we have done these sorts of projects, and because of this climate and because of these reasons, we specifically work with homes like yours." And you target that audience. That differentiation or that specificity is so valuable. And then number three, super value. This is brand new stuff that we're just learning in AI optimization right now. FAQs. So the AI bots are trained to look at FAQs on websites like tenfold more than any other type of content right now. So because it's already natural language questions, and so they review the natural language questions and then review the answer, and then they'll interpret that answer back as a result. So the one of the strategies that we have is put an FAQ page on every single page of the website and make that specific to that content. So the homepage FAQs, the services FAQs. Hey, here's this product. Here's the 10 questions that we get all the time about this product for this page. Here's the 10 questions that we get about what are we doing in winter or servicing or blah, blah, blah. Like that's all. You should have FAQs on every page of the site. We're working on ours right now.
51 questions with James Kwon right on the front page of the
Yeah.
website.
Check
Yeah.
out check out that one. That's a good one. It's
Dude,
a 10-year anniversary video.
James, there was so much meat in this conversation. Was there anything that was not captured that you're like, I really wanted to capture that before I ask you our final question?
No, I would love to offer your folks those pieces of content. So I'm gonna just drop it in chat. You can
No,
choose.
no, right after you answer this question, you're going to tell us exactly where to go.
Okay, all
So
right, sounds good.
we ask every guest the same question. What does it mean to you to be better than rich?
Okay, I've been thinking a lot about this question. I appreciate you giving it to me beforehand. There's two ways that I would answer, and I'll try to do this real quick. One, I have this philosophy about being rich or royalty, this decision that most entrepreneurs have to make when they're starting their businesses, especially, but many businesses that hit the $1, $2, $3 million mark, they have to re-decide this question. Do you want to be rich or royalty? So do you want to charge as much as you can and go and work on bigger and bigger projects, or do you want to do more projects and win more and potentially make more money? Which one's more important to you? And being better than rich, in my opinion, is not just being not rich and going to a royalty, but really thinking and considering the importance and the value of the question and seeking some kind of core fundamentally truth in yourself about which one you want to be. Jeff Bezos says there's two types of companies in the world: those who can charge as much as possible, those who charge as little. And he's decided to be the latter, but Apple's decided to be the former, right? So there's a lot of conversation around that path. Secondly, for me, I'm a man of faith. It's an important part of me as an individual. Yeah, I think there's richness that is far beyond dollars. And this is the hard thing that I learned in business. I love business, Mike. I went into business not knowing I would love business, but I started in culinary. Actually, I have a degree in culinary. I was like, I love creativity. And I was like, yes, I love food. I love creativity. And I got into culinary. And I was like, whoa, this is not the place that I can be creative most. I have deep respect for them, but not for me. Uh, and so I started graphic design, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. More levers to pull. This is great. And then I learned about marketing. I was like, wow, it's like a lake. It's incredible. Business is like an ocean. There's just an infinite number of things. And what I've come to realize over the last 2 or 3 years in a big way is loving people is the ultimate game. And it's irrelevant almost how much money you make. There is the imprint that you get to make as an individual, as a company, the stewardship and the responsibility that you have to make an impression and a lasting mark on the world is a big one. And for me, that's a big one.
How old are your three kids?
10, 7, and 2 now.
Oh, that's awesome, man. They're lucky, man. They're lucky to have you. I love the wisdom that you're sharing, man. So tell us where the
Thanks, dude.
listeners can go to stay in touch.
Yeah, I just dropped it in the chat, but Figmints, if you want to check out our agency, it's fig like the fruit, mints like the candy, MINTS, figmints.com, and figmints.com/better than rich. I just set that up as a post talk slices page where you can grab the spreadsheet to leverage slices for your business. And I think there's a sign up for the cohort too, if you're interested in that. You can also send me a note at james@figmints.com and I'll get back to you. Someone will get back to you.
Amazing. There's a free live workshop I see. There's a spreadsheet to help. There's a 90-day done with you cohort to help with slices, to help service business owners stop trading time for money and start building a team that acts like owners. Awesome resources. I'm definitely going to sign up and take you up on that personally. James, thank you so much, brother. And listener, thank you. We couldn't have the show without you. If you were enjoying this whole format and everything, let us know. And until next time on the Better Than Rich show, leave today better than you found it. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at @better_than_rich and join our Facebook group at the Better Than Rich Show. Thanks again for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, leave today better than you found it.